It's probably going to be a nightmare. See how this works. Hey, Jeffrey, can you hear us? I'm just curious if you're getting sound. We're just playing around. Your coin market cap lookalike, I see. Okay, I get you. Do you see my face? Is this a how to attend a girls' night out seminar? No.
That's funny.
David 14's here. All right, so Santino's gonna just talk for a minute. You guys tell me if you can hear his voice.
Yeah, we're making history here. This is like a mooant and Santino live stream. I've not participated in one of these before, so this is really very cool.
All right, so Jeffrey says yes. So I think this is sort of working. All right, give me 1 second. Testing. Yep, I can hear you both. Sound is a bit soft. He says. Okay. Santino's good volume. Turn yours up, moo. Okay. All right, how about now? Sound better? Gonna fire up my laptop, Jeffrey says. Hey, Ann. Me and Santino are just playing around. He's helping me out.
Yeah, I'm usually told to turn the volume down, so I rarely get accused of my volume being too soft.
Okay, so give me 1 second. I think we're good to go here. I'm gonna try and pull in some more people, and then we can maybe we can field some questions from people. How do you feel about that? I know it's kind of on the fly.
No, that's great. I love that.
Okay, cool.
I love back and forth.
All right, awesome.
I can't see the questions from my screen, so I'll leave that for you to
Okay.
field.
Oh, shit. Yeah, that's not good. I won't tell you what I just did. It's pretty fun. I'm able to inspect a page, right? So I'm able to look at the code on a page, and I miskeyed something, and
Did my garage door just open?
yeah,
And is my
I just hacked your
Yeah.
microwave. Yeah, it's pretty wicked. Oh man, we got a lot of people. Okay, I can hear something hissing noise, static on mooant's side. Santino's sound is crisp. Good to go. Hi Ann. Funny, Santino is a lot louder than Moo. Well, like I said, we're just playing around.
I'll try and turn my volume down.
I think you're okay. If you're clear, let's just let you be clear, and I'll just be crap.
Okay.
Refresh this page. So you guys, if you guys have questions, why don't we do this? Why don't you guys can just put them in all caps in the window, and then I can just read them to Santino because he can't see these because of the way I've got it set up. So if we want to do that, that's fine. Otherwise, me and Santino will just ramble about the market. How do you feel about the market, Santino?
Well, first of all, thanks for the invite. This is cool being part of the live stream. So
Sure, dude.
It's new for me. Yeah. You mean the general market or the crypto market or?
Any markets you want to talk about? Gold, crypto, the Dow.
Well, I mean, the prettiest market right now is the crypto market. It's had a nice bounce here. It's had a nice move. So let's see where this takes us. I'm a little bummed that it still seems to be so linked to the S&P and the Dow.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to see it really break out on its own, but my suspicion is we'll have to wait for that to happen, which means that it's still vulnerable on the downside.
Right.
But we could be into a few weeks of a really good move here. This is sensing to me. It's feeling to me like it's a move that has some legs. So, I mean, that's no guarantee. It won't crap out tomorrow, but it's certainly looking like it wants to go higher and wants to hit some of the resistance points that it hit on the way down. So, I'm kind of a believer on we wait till we hit those resistance points and see how it acts, because it makes a difference how it gets there.
Yeah, for sure.
Like it's a lot of what people often miss is that, we reached there. Yeah, but how did we reach there? It makes a difference. Was there a lot of volume? Did we sneak up and get to it? Did we hockey stick and get to it? Or did we, just build momentum? And, there's so many different ways you can hit these resistance points, and they tell you a lot about who's in the market, and what they're doing. So, but having said all that, without getting too technical, it feels to me like things want to go higher. And I'm pretty jacked about what some of the smaller alts are doing. We haven't seen this kind of action in a while.
Yeah. I'm just going to pull up, see if I can pull up TradingView real quick and let me know if the screen changes for you, yeah? Come on now.
There you go. Yeah, you got Ethereum up now. I can see that.
Okay, cool. You want to talk about Ethereum at all? I'm pretty happy. I saw it. I thought it wicked up to 194 yesterday, something like that.
Yeah.
Currently at 187. I'm pretty happy with where it's at. That's for sure.
Yeah, Ethereum is really just a beautiful looking chart. I mean, it's definitely poised for bigger moves. I was calling 200 and then, as the first target. That was my first target for Ethereum a few weeks back.
Yeah.
And I think once we get past that, then we're well deep into the twos. And I think we're headed there. I think we're headed there. And I think, this could very well be the move that gets us there. We just need to get past this congestion in the 190s. And once we get past 200, then, we should be moving. But of course, all of this is just playing off of Bitcoin. Bitcoin is still the dominance chart. It hasn't really budged. So, depending on what happens there, and then Bitcoin is still connected to the S&P and the Dow. So, it's just everything right now is still linked. And I think we couldn't get a move here, and I believe that we will, and it probably will be a good one. But the day when Bitcoin and crypto begins to move independently of all other markets, that's when we get the big gains. That's when we start getting the giant moves. That might not be as far away as people think.
Yeah, I'm very optimistic about the market. Heading into the halving, we're 17 days out now. We should see a real push. We're going to see hash rates get ridiculous. We already have, where a lot of miners have turned their equipment from BSV and BCH over to BTC now. So the hash rates are getting ridiculous again. What they're going to do is they're going to run these things into the ground. This is what they always do, right up until the halving, where the reward adjusts. Now, by pushing them hard, they I don't want to say artificially, but the difficulty adjustment changes. So not only do you have the halving, but there's automatic adjustment for the amount of hash that's happening. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So they'll run these machines into the ground, and then right before the halving, they'll run them right into the halving, and then right after the halving, they'll turn them off, and they'll let that difficulty adjust down, that on-the-fly difficulty.
Right.
And they'll give that a kind of a rest period, then they'll fire them back up. A lot of times that's where new hardware will be installed, new chips to kind of new ASICs to kind of deal with the new reward difficulty that's there. So I'm expecting all that. I am not one that really believes much in the correlation of price to the hash rate. I understand there's an economic mechanism there for the miners that is very, very important. But the overall price, I don't really, I've never really bought into that correlation. Do you have any feelings about that? I know it's kind of a tech plus economic plus market and plus business model question, but do you have any thoughts about that? Have you ever looked into that correlation?
Yeah, and as with most things with crypto, the answer is complicated. So the hash rate and how it works, and the raising of the difficulty going up, and the deflationary aspect of the halving will no doubt 100% have a positive effect on price long term. I mean, it can't help but not. That's just math.
Yeah.
Short term and medium term, it gets tricky, because what happens is speculators begin to play off of the halving, the sentiment off of the halving.
Yeah.
So so that becomes a bit disconnected from what the hash rate is doing, what the difficulty is. They're simply playing off the sentiment on the belief that that's going to be good for price, if you get what I mean.
Yeah.
So that, you're going to see that if we're in a cycle where Bitcoin and crypto is going up because of cycle economics, then that will be important. The halving will be important. If the cycle is not favorable to crypto, then the halving will be less important short term. Yeah. So it's the old thing where good news moves bull markets, right?
Yeah.
And bad news doesn't move them. Bear markets don't work well in either good news or bad, and bad news creams them. So it just depends on where we are in the cycle, which is why I pay more attention to the cycles. But cycle-wise, we could have the perfect storm here, where the cycle seems to be turning right now, and you do have the halving coming up, so it could be very positive. I'd be careful about a downdraft after the halving or immediately before, because speculators will book profits based on the halving.
Yeah.
But you can't time those things. It's difficult to.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just impossible to know when they'll book profits, because they'll just do it when they feel they've made enough money.
Yeah. All right, we got a couple questions. Let's try this. So Jeff asks, besides the top 3, pick your favorite coin and why. And I guess, so the screen I'm looking at, you guys, so this is a new overlay that I was talking about before. It's called Lunar Crush. It's a really great site. I would encourage you guys to go make a fake email address and then come in here and build a profile. There's lots of metrics. So currently displaying 9 out of 18 metrics. There's some different data options. If you're a programmer, you can hook APIs into this. I don't want to get too technical, but simply, like, you can build an overlay. You can build a dashboard, and you can edit your holdings. So I can go in here to edit holdings. Santino, what's a coin you like? Just to give me a demonstration.
I mean, I've been on ETH since last year. It's one of my favorite coins.
So let's say he said ETC, and I'll type in ETC, and I'll select it here, and then I can put in a quantity. So I'll put in 100, whatever. And I can display in all these different currencies, USD or BTC. I can also put in my buy price, so it'll track my gain and loss. I'm going to go ahead and hit save and close, and then it's going to refresh, and you'll notice the ETC here will now pop up, right? So now I got a bubble. You guys can't see it yet, it lags behind. So I'm waiting for my live stream to catch up, so that's pretty annoying. But what you'll see here is we now have an ETC bubble inside of my dashboard. I can go ahead, another cool thing is it'll track this entire, so it'll track all this entire, these holdings or portfolio, and it'll track them in BTC value and USD value, which I think this is really helpful to people. Especially if you don't want to go crunch the numbers or pull in a spreadsheet or be pulling in pricing data into some sort of mechanism. This will sort of do it for you, and you could play around with different holdings and different portfolios here. You could even divide them into sectors. So maybe you got a pure tech sector. Maybe you have a like a social media type thing where you could pull in, something like Steam and EOS and, you name it, BitTorrent, into a portfolio, and you could track those. That might be kind of fun for people to do. But anyway, once you have these bubbles here, you can click on them, and this will give you all sorts of information. It's got a galaxy score. This shows how well the coin is doing, coin or token, over the last 50 hours. It's got an alt rank. You'll notice here it's providing social information, so social engagement, social volume, social sentiment, news volume, spam volume. It pulls in feeds from different influencers. You can adjust these as well, and it pulls in, so this is kind of social media feeds that it's pulling from, and then it pulls in news stuff as well. So that's kind of cool. So anyway, I want to get out of here. So let's go back to somebody's question here. So there was a question here. It says, besides the top 3, Santino, pick your favorite coin and why. You want to go first?
You know what? There's 2 coins that look really interesting to me right now, and I think so. If I go by the category of what is for sure going to catch a bid if Bitcoin moves and will outperform Bitcoin. So if I use that as my criteria, I look at a coin like Dash, and Dash has always done what it's done, always. So Bitcoin spikes at the beginning of a new trend or a new cycle, whether it be, the cycle lasts for a few weeks or a couple of months, whatever it may be. And Dash just goes, right?
Yeah.
So does ETH, and so does a whole bunch of others. Dash is one of the bigger ones, and it's, it'll move. The other one that looks interesting to me is no surprise to anybody, because it's been a huge performer in the last couple of weeks, has been DGB. And I don't really know what's going on with DGB. It's just all of a sudden, it's just raised from the dead. And the volumes are really healthy. Makes me think that there's something going on with this coin. I don't know anything than anybody else. I'm just going by the market action. It's moving like a coin that maybe there's some expectations, or someone knows something, because there's a lot of buying in this thing, and it's beyond just momentum buying. This is sustained volume buying in DGB. That's the kind of thing you want to look for. So, as you know, I'm a big believer in price is always right and opinions are often wrong. So, I don't go off of opinions, and I don't go off of, we hope to have this come out one day, and we hope to have this done. And, there's some tenuous partnership because we got put, on some page with 100 other companies that was at a conference where IBM was at. You know what I'm saying? Like that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Bunch of nonsense.
I let the price tell me what's going on, and the price is telling me that somebody knows something. Yeah. So I like that. I like that.
So let me provide a little bit of background why I think DigiByte is going up. So they've been getting a lot of play with the COVID stuff, the CV stuff. Jared seems to be extremely passionate about that, and what I would classify, and listen, I like the guy, and I think he's very honest, and I like his tech perspectives, and very much, but I feel like he's been kind of hypersensitive, hyper aware about the CV thing. Now, understanding his background and where he comes from, and he does have a military background, I can understand why he would view this thing as a possible threat. So I appreciate that. So they've been, DigiByte's really been kind of inserting themselves into the tracking apps that are now starting to break into the public sphere. And every country's kind of got their own. So they're leveraging some of the DigiByte technology and the ID technology into these tracking apps where people can download an app on their phone. They can go in and put in their temperature. They might be able to walk around their city, and they can see if they come in contact with someone that is possibly infected. So that's part of the thing. Also, the DigiByte marketing is really pushing right now. But it kind of got a jump from the CV stuff. They're being talked about a lot. I'm hearing a lot of market people, and I'm not talking about YouTubers, but market people talk about just how undervalued it was and how long it was undervalued. So that's something kind of interesting. There's a lot of shares, so they're just getting a huge social media presence. I think there's a lot of holders of DigiByte. Some of them are very old holders. I've held DigiByte for a long time, and they're starting to kind of push and retweet. You can see the social engagement here. It's kind of ridiculous. It's up quite a bit. So there's a metric here that it captures. It says new shared links 24 hours, and this is up 10% within the 24 hours. So it's popularity and activity of all shared links across all collected sources during the selected time period. And you can go into view details here. So you're just seeing a lot of retweets. Also, you know this, Santino, as well as I do. When a coin jumps, 10%, when nothing else is jumping, right, it gets a lot of play. And especially the YouTube influencers, YouTube kind of crypto talking heads, they're always behind the curve. And I know a lot of people aren't going to want to hear that, but that is very true. So they kind of report on what happened yesterday. It's just in their production cycle. So when it went up 20% in that one day, boom, it feeds on itself, and then the next day it's up 27%, and then I think last night I looked, it could have jumped up to 43 or something like that. Does that make sense? I don't know. Any thoughts about any of that, Santino?
Yeah, you do have to be careful with these smaller coins that price chases price, and you begin to get into that. And I agree with you, and also they can be pumped by a very loyal group of holders. DigiByte certainly has that. But having said that, and it's good to be cautious of that, I'm very cautious of that. The type of action we're seeing seems to indicate something more. And that was really helpful, the background that you gave about COVID-19, and what was happening with the disease and what was happening with DigiByte, with the trace technology. Trace technology is for sure going to be huge. Yeah. In this space. Crypto is going to play a big role in that, and I know the conspiracy nuts are going to go crazy with that. But the reality is, if you're holding many of these coins that are going to go through the roof, a lot of them will be involved in trace technology. They just will. That kind of technology, bringing transparency to the banking industry, or whether it's tracking disease. It's similar. They're all related in that way, that technology. So with the good comes some bad, but nevertheless, DigiByte seems to be, out of all the small coins, I would put VET in that category as well. They seem to be ahead of others, ahead of their peers, and they could be the right coins for the right time.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I've always been very excited about DigiByte. From a technological perspective, there are 5 mining algorithms, longest blockchain in the world. To put it into perspective, you guys, like, it would take Bitcoin 100 years to reach the length of blockchain that DigiByte has. Like, if you're measuring from a technological perspective, that's a milestone by a mile, 100-year mile. Which is interesting.
It's truly decentralized, right, Moo?
Absolutely.
It's truly decentralized. They got that going for them as well.
Yeah, Jared is really a believer in the decentralized nature. Also, once again, you can see his background. Security is his thing, right? And when you have 5 mining algorithms, the setup there is that no one could ever take over this coin. No one. And that's interesting. So that means it's going to have a place, right? That means this blockchain, this token, this software is going to have a place where high security, right, is going to be super, super important. And I just think that's wonderful. That, we always talk about this, and I think it's lost on most people, but each one of these cryptos, they kind of do something different, right? They all have their own unique selling point and drawback too, but really interesting. Have you ever looked into the background of Jared Tate at all?
I don't know that much about him. I know that he's well thought of and he comes with a lot of credibility. I don't really get involved too much in studying the personalities. Mm-hmm. But I've heard a lot of people speak about him the way you speak about him.
Yeah. High regard for that guy.
Yeah.
And he's a good he's kind of a unique character within the space, right? He's not like an evil villain, right? He's not like a bad guy with a bad haircut, like Craig Wright or something. He's not super self-absorbed like some of the other ones. He's not. He doesn't come off like an alien, like Vitalik kind of comes off like an alien, right? Just so far beyond on the outside of the bell as far as just intelligence, and he seems very strange, right?
And he's unrelatable. Nobody can relate to him.
Exactly.
So.
And then you got Jared Tate, who's very calm, steady, opinionated, but direct, very direct. Military background. He's kind of a nice counterbalance within the space, I think.
Yeah, I like that. I liked him when he took on, and I'm I like Binance. And I believe that was the exchange, mm-hmm. where he kind of took him on and said, "Look, I'm not paying these ridiculous extortion fees to get onto Binance."
Yeah.
And DigiByte was hurt by it. And a lot of people who invested in DigiByte did not like that he did that. But what that showed me was this guy has a lot of integrity.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Okay, so your top coin right now, I guess from the question, out of the top 3, you said DigiByte, right? Yeah,
of the smaller coins, but mm-hmm. With Dash being like if you want a surefire, like slam dunk, Bitcoin goes up, something's gonna go up more than Bitcoin, and it'll go quickly. Dash mm-hmm. is gonna its name, but it's a bigger coin. It's not for everybody. And it's in a different category, Yeah. Some of the smaller coins just won't. Some of them will just stay flat, and Bitcoin will go up, and then Bitcoin will go flat, and they'll jump 30-40%. So they're more unpredictable. Whereas Dash, I guess what I would say is it's predictable in how it acts, right? When Bitcoin goes, yeah.
So outside of the top three, I agree with you. I'm pretty interested in Dash. I don't actually own any. It always seems to be a first mover. We've talked about that before. I'm still in love with the ones that I've been recently in love with over the last 8 months. So those are things like Tezos, Chainlink, Binance Coin. That being said, I just want to reference, within the top three, if I had to pick a top three right now, it'd be Ethereum by a long, long, long mile. Just very excited. I'm absolutely obsessed with Ethereum right now, learning all about 2.0, and hopefully I can digest some of that technical information and regurgitate it to people in a way that it makes sense to them. Out of these top three, what are you most excited about? Bitcoin, Ethereum, or XRP?
I've been heavily overweight Ethereum since November of last year, and continue to be. In fact, the position continues to grow, and I've had to trim it just because, just out of portfolio management, it's just gotten too big compared to the others. So, but I continue. Look, I've not been shy about my thoughts on Ethereum. My long-term target, now this is 2 years plus out, is 20K on Ethereum.
Wow, incredible! It's incredible.
I think it's going to be the coin for the new economy.
Okay.
That doesn't mean that the Tezos and because I always get, well, what about, this isn't a winner, it's kind of a winner take all, but it's not, because it's such a small space. Many coins will be able to participate. The Tezos and the Cardanos of the world will have a place, and it won't take much money to blow those little guys up. It just won't. They don't need to have the market cap that ETH does, right?
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think it's important, once again, to put these things into sectors. So, if I'm thinking about blockchains or railroad tracks, I'm thinking of things like Ethereum, Cardano, Tezos, Binance. What else would I throw in that category? Neo. And then, yeah, I completely agree with you. It's really important, I think, to throw these things into sectors and understand what you're holding. You're going to have some coins that are pure utility, like Chainlink. It provides a function, a necessary needed function, but what they're providing is completely different than like an Ethereum, right? Or a Binance, or a Tezos, or a Litecoin, or a completely different situation. There's a question here. It says, curious about Cosmos. Do you have any feelings about Atom or Cosmos?
I like Cosmos because it is going to be one of those coins that is going to help move legacy to 2.0, right?
Yeah.
So I think Cosmos is actually going to play a really big role in that, in its own space, as you've accurately pointed out, in its own space, right? It has a thing. It does its own thing. Having said that, I don't own it right now, but I have owned it in the past, and I'm going to see. I don't own it because I don't like it. It's just I think there's other opportunities right now that will do better. But it's probably a place I'd put some when I do trimming. It's probably a place I'll go.
Yeah. Once again, just to kind of show off this Lunar Crush, this is just a great site, and you'll notice. So I added a holding here for Cosmos, and I can go down to the feeds, and I can separate these out. But if I just go to all feeds, I'm getting information like from Reddit, right? That on the 23rd, and this is just yesterday, but Framework Ventures invests $750,000 in Cavo Labs, decentralized network that runs on the Cosmos. So just very interesting, right? I would really encourage you guys to go ahead and set up some things inside of this Lunar Crush. I think it's absolutely wonderful, especially if you're a person that gives a crap about kind of the social stuff, social engagements. This is really a great site. Santino, have you went in here and started building any portfolios or dashboards yet?
I played around with it for the first time the other night,
Yeah.
and I love the fact that it's like shopping at Amazon. It's a one place stop. You can do everything there, right?
Yeah.
And you can because it can give you comparisons, and it can give you connections to the news and to the feeds. It really gives you a full picture of what your coin is doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it can be pretty illuminating. It can be pretty illuminating. If you've been sitting on a non-performer, you go into this. I mean, it'll show you the reality of what that coin has been doing, which is not always pleasant. But the flip side of that is it will show you where there's a diamond in the rough that's starting to produce, and starting to move. So it's a really good site. How long has this site been around? I've never seen it before.
So it has existed for a while, but it used to just be complete trash. No offense to anybody that's been working on the site, but you just didn't have this kind of power behind it, and they've really done a great job being unique, right? So CoinMarketCap kind of does what it does, and it's kind of the very generic one that a lot of new people check out and whatever. And I've never found it that useful. I've always found the Masari stuff or the what was its name before, on-chain FX, to be way more useful as far as some metrics. And then so this is kind of providing another unique entry as far as being able to really tie in some APIs and be able to pull in all the social media stuff from Reddit and Twitter and YouTube. And I like how they have their independent alt ranks and their independent galaxy scores. I just think it's really interesting. It's also a great site to learn, right? Meaning somebody new, every day they feature a new coin, right? So like yesterday was Cardano and today is Icon, apparently. So it's coin of the day. And so, if you didn't know anything about cryptos in general, it's a good place to go and, see what they're talking about. Why are they talking about it? Why did it, get marked coin of the day? What's happening? Very interesting. I noticed that Tizen here, he's got an interesting background, but he is a very intelligent person. And, ICX is one of the coins that he likes quite a bit, and Tezos. Are you familiar with Tizen at all?
No.
Very, very successful trader. Like I said, kind of had a sordid past. Spent some time behind the wall, as people say, and but came out of there and really has done extremely well as a trader. And he understands technology very, very well too. So, but I like his take on certain tokens like Tezos. He's done a good job about explaining that to non-technical people, and ICX as well. Yeah, check him out if you get a chance. I'd like to know your take on him.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Let's see if we got any other questions. If you guys have any questions, you can just put them in the put them in caps if you can. Jeff wants to know if you have any suggestions for regrowing hair. Obviously, he's not going to ask me that question because I can't grow hair.
I think I know which Jeff that is. Although I can't scream, but I could probably guess which Jeff that is.
Yeah, I bet. I'm going to let you riff for a minute as I try and add another widget to our display here, because guys, this is a live stream, and I'm just learning how to broadcast via OBS and tie in YouTube and a couple different elements, and I want to make a widget here. So I'm going to let Santino riff, and I'm going to see if I can add a widget that will pull in our chat so he can actually see it. What do you want to talk about, buddy?
Your tech kung fu is very strong, Moo.
Most of the time it's like falling down the stairs. That's how strong it is.
I'm seeing such strange stuff in these markets like everybody else. I just, just when you think you've seen it all, you wake up one morning and there's just something that the one headline 3 years ago would have thrown the markets into a tailspin. And now the market is just absorbing these punches one after another, which tells me that everything is changing. I mean, even in the developed world, it's pretty obvious that the government is now going to be our partner in everything. And nobody's going to be allowed to fail. And they're going to do everything they can to hang on to this system intact, which ironically is just going to make it worse. And it is making it worse.
Right.
And it's just, Japan has been doing this experiment with buying the stock market and buying its own treasury, buying its bonds. And it's experienced no growth in almost 2.5 decades. But it will be worse for the developed world outside of Japan, outside of Asia, because we've been just gorging on money supply.
Right.
Really, since the early 1970s, this experiment has been. The train left the station in the early 1970s when we came off. I know people get tired of hearing that, but it's true. That's when it started. Yep. When Nixon took us off the gold standard, and the experiment started then. Now the train is coming in, and we're not only coming to a stop. I mean, we're headed towards a wall, right. And they're doubling down. They're doubling down on this experiment, which is the scary part. I mean, I saw a thing this morning. The ECB now is doing what the Fed is doing. They're literally bailing out. They're buying junk grade debt and taking it on as collateral for loans. I mean, this is the very definition of a Ponzi scheme.
Yeah. Where do you think this is all going? I mean, so that's a very loaded question, right? But where do you see it going in the next 3 months? What we're doing, what's happening around the world? I think
this will take longer to sort of come together maybe than people think. Mm-hmm. But I could be wrong on that. I mean, I didn't foresee things coming unhinged as quickly as they did in March. So I could be totally wrong on that. But my guess is that we'll have a period of relief once we get past the lockdown. Mm-hmm. Once they raise this lockdown, people will have this relief period where people would just be so happy that they're not locked in their homes anymore and they can go to a store and, the money will be flowing by then, the government checks will be flowing by then. But that, once that money stops, they can't go on forever after a few months, and the jobs don't return. That's when desperation. I don't think we've hit desperation.
Yeah.
We hit panic. We had the panic stage. We'll have the relief stage, and desperation will follow that once people realize that that was just the eye of the storm. All we were experiencing here the last few months was the eye of the storm, where it seemed like things were back together, but they're not. Once we're into the storm again, I think that's when things really start to get ugly. And that's when we start to see the effects of this giant printing press and what it does, the destruction of money, the true effects on the common person on the street.
Yeah.
Once you begin to suffer the effects of destruction of money, that's when things will get real. Because right now it's just been a market thing. If you're an average person, you're basically blaming all this on the virus and saying, well, this is just a weird time because of the virus. They're not really understanding how quickly and how intensely their governments are destroying their money.
Yeah.
They will understand when the real impacts hits home.
There's a couple questions that have popped up here. Let me just switch over. I'm still playing around with the widget. I got to be careful. I don't want to display a lot of the things that are on my screens. Anyway, Mega Glide wants to know your perspective. Hey, Santino, what is your forecast on the stock market?
I've been on record as saying that I think we'll hit the 2009 lows, which is around 6,000 Dow eventually. I think we will get there. I think it'll be a process. It won't be a collapse all in one day. It'll just grind down to that level over the next couple of years. If I had to guess, that's what I'd say. It makes sense. The charts are certainly pointing there. But we'll have spectacular rallies in between. Some of the biggest rallies that ever happen during bear markets. And so they'll, usually they're just snap back like an elastic band, and they put all the shorts on their heels. The shorts are forced to buy, which causes these crazy rallies. And they can last for a little while. So we may even hit old highs. Yeah. That's totally possible before we go down to those levels. That would not be, in fact, that would be normal to do that. So that's what I think that's what's going to make this market so unpredictable. Dow, the S&P is at 2,800 now. I see no reason why all this printing and all this money that's happening now can't take us to 32, 33. I mean, that's not that far above where we are.
No, not really. Ann's got a question here, and listen, this is all on the fly, and I appreciate Santino coming and hanging out with me and letting me click on things and try and figure out some items here as I'm learning some software in the background that you guys can't see. But so don't feel like you have to answer all these questions, but Anne would like to know, what do you think about the lockdown? Is it disease related or economic related?
It was a health crisis that was bound to create an economic crisis. So I think the economic crisis that it spawns will be far worse than the health crisis. I mean, and I've said that, by the way. I was, as you know, Moo, I was saying that from the beginning. Yeah. That this would just be the trigger for a market that was poised to collapse in any event. There was maybe, people like using that term black swan. There was maybe half a dozen black swans swimming around over the last year, right? Yeah. And it just so happened this was the one that landed in our backyard. It could have been any other one. It could have been a bond blowout. It could have been interest rates. It could have been, North Korea. It could have been the Strait of Hormuz. I mean, who knows? There was so many things going on. This was the one. This was the trigger, and it was bound to happen. We have it now, and will be the consequences of this will be studied for generations. The time period we're in now will be studied for generations as the time period when everything changed in the total structure of how the world is organized. It's going to be that big, what's coming.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. There's an interesting question here, and I don't know how we want to approach it, but MYG World Traveler says, just found out, can you suggest a good place to buy gold in the USA? I'll just tell you where I've bought from and been pretty happy. AppMex has been a great resource for me. Modern Coin Mart, they've done well. I haven't checked inventories in a while. I've used things like SD Bullion before. So yeah, I would just check inventories there. Do you have any comments on that at all, Santino, about where to online resources to get a hold of gold and silver bullion if people were interested in that?
I would defer to you on that, Moo. I can't really speak to the U.S. market and where to get bullion.
Yeah. Another question here: is it a good idea to hold more BTC than Q Labs right now? I can't really speak to that. Sam has put together her ideal portfolio that she believes is the easiest and most multiples, and she's grouped them into something called Q Labs, Quick Like a Bunny. And I think the perspective is that once those go, they will just go. And she did not want her perspective. I think she saw a lot of people trying to chase those. So I think that's, when you can think of those Q Labs, I would think that it would be a core holding portfolio that you would just kind of get your positions in and stick it away. Is it a good idea to hold more BTC than Q Labs? That's really up to every person's individual goals, thoughts, actions, intuition, understanding, education. Do you have anything to say about that?
No, I mean, I agree with you, Moo. It's just that without knowing a person's, their personal situation, or there's a place for BTC in portfolios, depending on how long you've been in, how large your portfolio is, what your time frame is. Are you looking for more conservative returns? Are you looking for higher beta returns? I mean, it's just a myriad of questions, and so it's just some people don't need to own BTC. Some people probably good that they do. For very large crypto portfolios, you should probably have some BTC. For smaller portfolios, probably can get away without having any. You stick to the quality top alts. Will give you, as long as you're spread out amongst them, you're not too heavily into one. I think you'll be better than fine. You'll do okay. But there's some people that are in this market that have been long BTC holders, and they've used BTC to help pay for most of their portfolio. There's a lot of people in that boat. So they just hold BTC because they've had it for so long, and they've slowly been divesting of it and putting it into things like ETH and ETC and other coins. That's been a strategy that's worked really well because BTC has outperformed most coins. With the exception of just a few, BTC has clearly been the performer. So there has been a role for BTC in people's portfolio. Going forward, I think if we start getting into a bull market, which I think we will, I think we all agree one is going to start sooner or later, in a full-blown crypto market bull market, you're probably better off in the smaller coins. They're going to give you bigger multiples.
Yeah, so, when I think about cryptos, just as we were talking about the, cryptos, they kind of serve different purposes, right? And they can be, you can break them into different sectors, for sure. But they're really almost different asset classes, too, aren't they? I mean, I don't view BTC anything like Ethereum at all. I think Bitcoin is more like a gold holding, that I can't do much with it. But I know there's interest and people secure wealth there. So that's kind of how I view BTC. When I think of Ethereum, I think about the latest and greatest cool software. I think of code. So really, they're almost different asset classes, aren't they? QLabs, I think, provide a different function as well. Just my perspective, and hope no one's offended or frustrated by this. But I just think probably multiples. There are multiple possibilities are probably there. Kind of interesting.
Yeah, BTC that's exactly how I view it. It's a store of value, plain and simple. I pay zero attention to the Lightning Network or, how come there's no developers with because I don't need it to do any of that stuff. Yep. In fact, I'd rather it didn't.
Right.
I would rather it just concentrated on being a secure digital form of store of value. That's all I want it to be. It doesn't need to be anything else, because by virtue of the fact that it's not something is the reason that it will go up in value, not because of what it is, because of what it's not. And because it's not, eventually won't be correlated to any other asset, that's what's going to be its strength. And think about it this way, okay? If you're a large investor or a bank or a country or, and you're looking to park millions of dollars, folks, you're not going to be putting that into BAT.
No.
Or, or I'm not picking on BAT. I love BAT. I own BAT. But you know what I'm saying? Like,
no, I understand the position. Yep.
Or DigiByte or any of them. Or it's just you're not going to be putting that kind of money in there. Maybe one day, perhaps, looking out 2 years plus, yeah. But that money's going to go all to Bitcoin and probably some ETH. I believe ETH is now, I'm hearing large investment houses, and large, family offices and large investors now speaking about ETH as well. I think it will catch some of that bid as well, which was what makes ETH so such a great coin because it can act in so many multiple of different ways. So it can be a high multiple coin and a store of value and finance 2.0. It can be all those things. Yeah. So I just think people need to be real and also understand that you don't need your BAT, or your DigiByte. You only need a fraction of the money that goes to Bitcoin, and you're going to make money. So, but you're bang on. They're totally different markets. The crypto market now has so many different subsets, so many different coins that do so many different things. It's comparing them one to one really is an apples and oranges sort of comparison.
Yeah. I'd like to encourage people to start thinking about their holdings in crypto as what can it do for them outside of an investment vehicle too, right? I'd like them to, when they're holding, for example, if they're holding DigiByte, why would a user want to hold it, right? What gives it actual value? So get away from the uptick or downtick in a price and try and think about how this technology is going to be used. And if you weren't in it for a speculative purpose or hoping that you could sell it higher than you bought it for or something like that, think about how the technology, like what you can use it for. I think people, they would do themselves a service to think about how this technology can be applied. I know that's kind of more my end than your end, Santino, but any thoughts about that?
Absolutely. I mean, look at the staking that's going to be going on. Look at the utility that's involved. I mean, that's investment as well, but it's an argument for here's a coin that actually does something. Yeah. You can look at ETH. Look at how profitable that's going to be. What utility does your coin have? Look at BAT. I mean, attention economics is going to change. Is blowing up the model. It's virtually blowing up the model. Anybody with eyes to see can see that. The Googles and the Facebooks of the world have no idea what's coming. It's changing everything.
Absolutely. They're going to be forced to deal with that new reality, right?
Right.
That's the great thing about this. That's how disruptive this is. And I think a lot of people maybe just on the surface too, so let's just take something like that. They might think, okay, well, it's only upending one industry. No, it's not. It's upending about 10 different industries. Like, that's wonderful, right?
Absolutely. Like that revolution that's happening is going to be absolutely massive, and BAT is like right at the tip of that. But will it be a winner down the road? Will it be morph into something else? I suspect there's going to be a whole host of technologies come in to play off of that because we're so early. But it will transform everything. It will on how people interact, how advertising works. You change the advertising model. You change the whole capitalistic model of social media.
Yeah,
that's how big it is. That's how big attention economics is.
A couple questions here, and some of these I probably can't ask. So one of them is, what is your definition of large and small? I'm not sure what they mean here, so let's talk about large and small cap cryptos. What is your definition of large and small cap cryptos?
Well, I mean, look at the market cap of Bitcoin, Ethereum, ETH Classic. I mean, even XRP. Really, anything that's in the top 10 would probably be considered large cap. Coins that are very liquid, coins that have been around a long time. That to me would be considered blue chip coins, right? ETH is a prime example of what a blue chip coin is. Ones where there's institutional interest. So those would be blue chip. And so you've got maybe, I don't know, half a dozen or 10 that maybe fit that. I'm not just going off the top of my head.
No.
And,
I think that's great.
Yeah. And the rest, will tear down. You'll go from, medium cap, down to, third tier and fourth tier, right down to, coins that trade, $100,000, dollars worth of coins in a day. I mean, those are very illiquid and very, very risky. And by the way, a lot of them won't be around. They won't survive what's coming.
Yeah, I would definitely say, from my perspective, I'd call the large caps probably. I think there's really only two, to be honest with you, and that's going to upset like the XRP holders, right? But I think you got Bitcoin and Ethereum. I think those are your large caps. Your mid caps are anything probably from 10 billion down to 1 billion. I'd probably call that a mid cap. So that eats up spaces 3 through, 15, 16. And then anything below a billion, I would probably call a small cap. You're going to have micro cap stuff as well. You're going to have stuff that's, number 952 or whatever. I don't even, I would call those like super micros. Just, those are tokens, coins that I'm typically, I'm not interested in at all. I'm not even, I'll get some intuitive feeling about the tech. I might read a white paper or whatever, but I would not hold something like that. Just personally, not.
I think that's a much better definition, because you outlined the actual numbers and so I would agree with that. That's why I said, there's like stages, from the very bluest of blue chip alts, which actually I agree with you, probably is only ETH and BTC, and then down from there. So, where do the dashes and the Zcashes and ETCs, where do they fit in? Probably just below XRPs, just below that. And then you just keep going down and down and down the market cap. There's people that in this market, and you see them, and they chase these 30, 40% gainers in a day, not really understanding how markets work and not really understanding that it is maybe only about 10 or 20,000 K that moved that coin to get them. That's, you do not want to be in that thing. You don't want to be anywhere near these, just below that. And then you just keep going down.
Another question here. At what price would you, it says when silver hits 150, hypothetically, would you ever take that and put it into fiat or crypto? From silver into fiat or crypto?
Silver at 150?
Yeah.
Like where would you put, I guess they're asking, would you take profits from that? Where would you put your profits?
Yeah, pretty much. At what price point would, in silver or USD denominated silver price, would you feel like you wanted to unload some of that silver into either fiat or crypto? I know it's a strange question, but
Yeah. I mean, a world where silver is at $150 an ounce is going to look radically different than the world we live in right now. Yeah. Because I don't know what fiat will look like if that's happening. And cryptos will have already exploded by then, because silver, I've always said this, gold is linked to Bitcoin, silver is linked to the alts. It's the same, it's many of the same speculators and investors that move the markets. Yeah. I'm not saying they're the most important piece. I'm simply saying they're the ones that move the markets. Okay, the retail guy trading on Robinhood is not moving the ETH market. All right, these are the guys that are moving. So where will they be in a world where will they be in a world where silver is $150? I don't know. Will they be blown out? Will they be around? Cryptos will have exploded by then. So putting profits from silver into crypto probably won't make much sense by then, because they're all have gone up, So I think you look for I'm looking for the next bull market after that. I'm looking at things like food. I'm looking at things like uranium. I'm already thinking past the precious metals and the cryptos. I've been thinking past them for a while.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that. It's pretty interesting. Which are better for passive income down the road? So any thoughts on some tokens or coins that you're interested in for possible passive income if they were set up correctly?
You know what, Moo? I would actually like to hear your thoughts on this as well. You have a really good understanding on passive income and staking, and a good. I would ask you that question as well. It's a good question.
I'd like to go into more depth about this because I can talk about a token or a coin or a mechanism, but it doesn't really do it justice, right? It doesn't really do it justice. Like, that's not understanding. But just to throw out quickly, things like Tezos, Chainlink, ICX, Ethereum, those would be the ones that I'd be interested in. A little bit further down the road, 88. Those would be my quick hitters. Not only Ethereum as our potential stake candidate, right, coming up, but also all the DeFi money that's being unloaded there, and that space is just going to grow. So, yeah. Any thoughts about that?
Yeah, absolutely. There's going to be just all kinds of areas to make passive money, and you're right. It's a massive topic. You could do a whole live stream just on how that's going to work. But listen, when we start to see the destruction of the destruction of sort of this whole financial structure and how we're looking at the complete changeover, there'll be a destruction and then a changeover. Whatever the changeover is probably going to look like passive income, digital passive income. It'll take that form. Understand that we're now looking at the very, very beginning, just the infancy of these things. It's all kind of experimental. So I don't know how much you can extrapolate which coins will be the winners down the road, which coins will be the monsters down the road. I don't have that. I'm not smart enough to know that.
Yeah.
But I do know that is going to be a big, big thing. It's going to be a big, big thing. There's going to be a lot of big winners in that space.
I'm just curious on your screen now, Santino, and maybe not, but can you see the questions now?
No.
Okay. Well, guys, I've had something pop up here that I need to take care of. I'm going to go ahead and kill the stream. I really appreciate everybody, helping me out and testing this thing, me getting familiar with some of these plugins and widgets. Santino, I can't thank you enough for your time, man. Thank you very much.
Hey, thank you for inviting me. It's always cool to be a part of these type of live streams. It's always great chatting. This is really cool.
Yeah, if you guys like this, maybe we can do these in the future. Doing these live stream type things saves a lot of encoding and editing time, and they're just far simpler to deliver content. And I'm sure Santino will be interested in coming back. I'll build some interesting things, some overlays, and apply some of my programming abilities, and see if we can't get this kind of looking pretty snazzy and helpful to us. Anything you want to say as we close it out, buddy?
Hey, where do I got to be? You invite me, I'm here.
Thank you very much, man. I appreciate that, and I know everybody else does too. So thank you very much. See you guys later. Take care. Bye.
See you guys.